Hey, good morning. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name's Karen Carter Smith, and I am exposing truth. I'm sharing education and, the lies that we believe from the enemy. I'm trying to dispel those. And to do that, you have to educate and be aware of the things that have cuffed you. And so, through my life, it hasn't always been blissful. I've gotten into a lot of things, made a lot of choices, and came with consequences, of course. But so I'm hoping the word that I got was to use all of those hardships, struggles, things that you were cuffed to, things that you didn't speak up about. It's that time. Because if you can save one person, then that is good. So if you have a voice, which we all do, you need to start using it because your life story matters and there's somebody that you can help. And so that's where, not everything is lost. And the enemy makes us believe that we are not worthy, that we're just basically a loser, and that no good can come from our lives and there's no reason to live anymore. And you can get in really deep depressions, believing things like that about yourself. So this channel is about rising up, becoming victorious, being delivered from all the things that have cuffed you. And so this morning's session is on addictions. Yeah. I never was a drug addict, so I can't relate to that. But I do think that addictions all go hand in hand in certain ways. Just like sin. Sin is sin. Whether you commit adultery or you steal or you gossip or you slander or, tiny white lies we hear. A sin is a sin. But different sin comes with different consequences. And so it's kind of like addictions. They just have different consequences. An addiction is something that holds you captive, that you are chained to, that you are cuffed to, that you cannot, that it's just holds you. I mean, that's all there is to it. I had an eating disorder, and so, my last YouTube video, when I was exposing the fact of just that on it, I was talking about where your soulmate isn't your husband or somebody else's husband. I had said that at the end that I had an eating disorder, and then that would be another talk. So today is that talk. When I was age 12, I was in middle school, and I recall a group of us just having a slumber party or something, and we were talking about losing weight. At age 12, I have no clue why we were talking about losing weight. Maybe it was 13. Maybe that slumber party was 13. We were talking about who could lose the most weight and winning something. Well, I'm very competitive, but and I just like to win. I have always had that internal drive to be the best. And that comes with perfectionism. That comes with a lot of trauma, of feeling inadequate, having a low self-esteem. If you gather titles, if you gather degrees, if you gather all of these things, then that will somehow make you worthy. That's not how you get self-worth. But that's what society tells us, that we can get self-worth by what we do, what we own, how much money we make, what our job is, and just how busy we keep ourselves. So growing up, I had already started believing those lies. And then I had a little crush on a boy. And he called me fat one day. And with being competitive, wanting to win, on top of being told I was fat by someone I really liked or had a crush on, he didn't know I had a crush on him. And he was teasing because I wasn't fat. Looking back, I wasn't, I was average. And so that day, those days, those two things started a horrible disease that I could not kick. And you know, when someone says I recovered is an ever-going process. When you have an addiction, you don't totally recover. You are walking in recovery. It's just like an alcoholic who goes into a bar. That's a no-no. If you're surrounded by it, then don't give in to the temptations of it. And so with me and food, I have to constantly stay telling myself, Karen, it's just the healthy choice to eat 3 meals a day. It's the healthy choice to eat this, this, and this. It started out as me starving myself, like I just wouldn't eat. And then I passed out on the volleyball court because I was involved in all sports. And so then my parents became aware, and I got some help, but I didn't get the help because as a teenager, you know what? You kind of lie. You've learned to sneak around. You've learned to just hide the problems that you have, especially when you were a child that really didn't talk a lot, that you stayed to yourself. I was a very creative person, more introverted, and just would write poetry and write things and make art. And so I didn't share my feelings, and my parents were busy doing other things and really didn't notice, I don't think, until that happened. And then they were faced with, oh my goodness, this is happening to her. And I lost a lot of weight, but that evolved into throwing up, which was bulimia. And so I would just binge eat, and then I just purge it all up. And it got to a point where I would take Ziploc baggies to my room and throw up in the bags because my parents' commode just kept getting stopped up. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to know, and I'm going to get caught. So, you know, when you have an addiction, you do things secretly. You also lie to cover your track. And the one thing about it is you just are in the dark. You are chained and cuffed to doing things that you normally wouldn't do. But your brain has kind of like been taken over with a bunch of lies. And I'd like to say that going to therapy helped me. But at an early age, when I was younger, it didn't, because I had already had trust issues with other things that was happening in my life earlier on. And so I wasn't going to talk to a counselor. Also, my parents really, during that time, that was like a long time ago, counselors, mental health advocates were not as prevalent as they are today. And so there's this, I don't know, I can't think of the word that a stigma maybe. If you went to a counselor, you really had problems, which, what I didn't recognize is everybody had problems. So, to make a long story short, what I wanted to say about recovery is, in order to get any help, you have to want to. Something has to happen in your life that will just shut you down, which was my case. I became pregnant with our son and had to start eating healthy. Did I continue to eat healthy after he was born? No. But I had another addiction, which was to caffeine, to Mountain Dew. And so with Mountain Dew and the food, it truly just, my teeth, I have my front teeth are all real. But I have a lot of implants in my mouth. And the one thing I tell the kids that I teach at school is I say, you know what? The things your future self needs you now. The things that you are doing, whether it's smoking or drinking or shopping or shoplifting or having sex or, whatever your vice is, whatever your addiction is, it doesn't just magically go away. It also feeds into consequences for you in the future. So, I don't have all my real teeth. I have missing teeth, and then I have implants, and there's a lot of money in my mouth. And if I would have just not thrown up, and I would have, if I had laid off of the caffeine or the acid, actually, it's the acid that ate it up, not the caffeine. And so, our addictions come with major consequences, and that's like all addictions. And then you just kind of trade one for another. And so, at one point I would say I probably had a shopping addiction. I shopped and chose not to pay bills sometimes because that need to shop was honestly filling this void in me. It's never about wanting to do whatever. It's about getting a payoff. It's about that addiction making you feel good or worthy or in control. And the eating, the food was a control thing. My life was out of control, and so that was the one thing that I could control was myself. And that attitude right there has some pluses to it, because if we would just learn from, we can't control things or people or in life or anything, but we can control how we act and how we respond. And so, that is something that was taken from that, is like, but that didn't stop me from having, that just showed that I had control issues. And so, those are the three things actually, like food, Mountain Dew, shopping. Oh, probably relationships. Like I would get into, growing up, I would get into these relationships that just craving attention and feeling special and wanting that attention. And that comes from, like I said, daddy issues in my other video. How we get ourselves caught into situations and we wake up and we find ourselves there. It's because we didn't get what we needed. I don't blame my dad. I love my dad. He did the best he could. But I needed some things from him and he was unaware. And so when we grow up, and just like my children needed things from me and I wasn't able to give it to them. Like we've had some really serious talks, and all three of my kids said, Mom, you emotionally weren't there. And I took a deep swallow, and I was like, you know what, you're right. I wasn't emotionally there. I was physically there, but I was barely surviving myself. I was sinking. I was dying. And I shared in that last video what got me to that place a little bit, of just, stepping out of God's will and into a situation that was not healthy for me. And just over the course of those years, compounded issues. And, how I felt about myself and my own issues. And so, but yeah, I lost my whole train of thought on that one. We get cuffed to things and we do things. So I think it was back to the daddy issue, is like, I don't blame my dad, but I needed some things and I didn't get them. And so when we don't get those at a young, early age, then we try to feel them because there's no one there telling us, no, this isn't how you get that. Being a social emotional learning specialist, no one ever taught you how to love yourself. No one ever taught us how to have high self-esteem. No one ever taught us how to deal with conflict resolution and healthy communication. And so what we did growing up was just stuff feelings or try to, we just didn't deal with them. That's for sure. We didn't know. Like, I know I didn't. And that's where the biggest thing about me being an advocate for truth and awareness and education is because if I just would have known, I mean, in all honesty, if I would have had those voices telling me, if I would have had that circle of friends who talked truth to me and didn't just let me idly do what I wanted to do or aid and abide in any of my wrong, and just spoke truth, and it might have made me think. It might have made me question. It would have given me a choice. When you walk in life and you just are making choices on your own, and no one ever, we've gotten into a society where we just, oh, that's their life. Yeah, just let them live it. Okay. If you truly love somebody, you can't just let them live it that way. I mean, like, you can't control it, but you can definitely put up some guardrails and speak some truth and say, you know what, this choice that you're about to make might come with some heavy penalties and prices, and you might lose your family, and you might lose, your relationship, and you might lose your friends, and you might, you just need to be aware. And it's really hard because the enemy just traps you, man, making you believe things. And if you are not solid, planted firmly in your relationship with the Lord, you know what? You're going to give into that temptation. Even Jesus was tempted, but he was able to not give into that temptation. But he was tempted. And so we are human, and we're going to get tempted all the time. And, addictions are not healthy. I think the ultimate goal for one's life is wholeness, healthiness, and balance. And balance is in all realms: spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. We have to be able to be whole. And where one of those areas are off, we need to really work hard at that. Guys, if you're going to the bar and you're drinking, or you're having to have maybe that drink after work. I'm saying this because I heard a friend tell me that her friend drinks a lot, and she just says, oh, I'm just drinking to do this. Well, no, that's a problem. If you are doing anything that is trying to make you feel better or trying to make you forget, those are addictive pattern thought processes. Okay? If you are cuffed to something, if you are needing something external other than your personal relationship with the Lord and just being able to be alone, if you are needing more, like, relationships are great, but they're a bonus. Like, if you're craving, all you are craving is to have that, oh, if I just had that boyfriend, or if I just had that husband, or oh, if I was just married. I remember used to saying that when I was younger, thinking that would make me feel loved or special. And it just, that doesn't fill the void, guys. The only thing that fills the void is our Lord and Savior, and having a relationship with him. So yeah, so this was a bunch of stuff, but my main thing was, if you think you have an addiction to something, face it. Face the truth. You don't have to live that way. Okay, today's the day for you to decide, I have a choice. I don't want to live like this. Reach out. Get the help that you need. Call the number. Google it. Watch YouTube videos, how to overcome. Or what do I do if I tell my kids all the time at school, like someone said, my mom yells at me all the time. What am I supposed to do? I said, Google. Google on YouTube, what do you do when your mom yells at you all the time? You'll have all these videos come up. There'll be doctors, there'll be teenagers, there'll be different things. And just listen. You don't have to take all that advice, but just some, you know. You might learn from it. Might be able to give you some wisdom and knowledge to know what to do for you next time. So, yeah, just guys, don't stay stuck. Make choices for yourself. Get unstuck. And that power starts with you. Hope you have a great Monday.